Hello and welcome to episode 124 of Gamers and Lost Spark podcast. I'm your host, Antony Chesson, and joining me this week, it's the other Spark on the pod. He's a niche gamer who always have a points of brew. It's Mr. Steve Carter.
Hello, sir. How are you doing? You all right?
You see what I did there? It's a clever intro. It's a clever intro.
Nice little plug as well. Which
yes.
I'm happy you did it rather than me doing a little shameless self promote as well.
For those not in the know, Mr. Carter here. Mr. Carter is also kind of you are a prolific kind of content creator. You have your Points of Brew beer blog, which is just a way for you to just drink loads of beer, really, isn't it?
I don't need an excuse, but I might as well make something of it whilst I'm drinking, hadn't I?
Exactly. And then Niche Gamer is a gamer review site.
Yes, it is.
That's right.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So we're currently writing for. I think you pronounce it niche, I think, which equates to niche, I think, in English.
Right.
I think that's how you pronounce it in Japanese, but yes, it equates to niche gamer. But yes, we look out for the sort of the smaller games that are out there. Looking for the sort of the indie games. My sort of main thing is the Switch at the minute for them.
Right.
Which we'll come on to a little bit later in the podcast. But yeah, it's there's a lot of coverage out there for the big guys in the industry.
Yes.
For the likes of Call of Duty, Gears of War, Battlefield. So they get an exposure for the little guys is a bit more, a little bit tricky for them. So it kind of benefits us that we get a lot of stuff sent to us, which is great, and it gets them out there, which is great as well. But yeah, I thought whilst I'm drinking my beers, I might as well write about them as well. Just
so whilst you're drinking your beer and playing indie games on the Switch, you might as well just write about both.
I might as well do both at the same time. It's just a perfect balance.
I love it. It's awesome. And yeah, so we'll stick a link in the show notes to both of those. So really kind of in my intro, I butchered both of those things, didn't I, really? So it's niche, or is it niche or niche gamer? I'll stick a link, people.
Yeah, I think it's niche. I think the technical pronunciation is, but I'm happy to go with niche because that's what it equates to in English. So I think if we go niche gamer, I don't think we'll be a million miles away.
My intro's not too bad then, I just fell over my tongue. So anyway, Steve, it's been a while since you've been on the pod. What have you been up to?
Moving in, mainly, is what we were doing. So we moved in...
Yes.
February now, I think it was, back end of February. Right. And we only got the internet mid last month, so it was just as we were coming back from holiday. So we were for the first 2 weeks of April. So yeah, we only got the internet sort of mid to late April. So just been waiting for that, which was an absolute killer. Using 4G, exceeding my 4G data allowance inevitably. Using the likes of Netflix, streaming, Spotify, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, it's been a while. Getting moved in, getting the house sorted. We sorted the last bits of the boxes that needed unpacking this weekend just gone. The nice warm bank holiday weekend. It seemed like a great idea to be in the house unpacking in the heat. So that spare bedroom is functional now. We actually have a bed that somebody could sleep in if they wanted to. They wouldn't have to contend with the boxes and bags that were in there. So yeah, it's been good. But we're homeowners. We've entered the world of adult now. We have bills. We have things to pay for. We did have the house before, which was rented, but now we're officially homeowners. So yeah, scary times.
Does it feel good though? Does it feel good? Yes. Occasionally you're like, what have I done? Yeah. But it feels good, doesn't it? It feels good that you can, because you don't answer to anyone. You can happily kind of walk around just in your pants and no one cares apart from your fiancée, because as we announced a couple of episodes ago, you also got engaged while you were away as well.
Yeah,
congrats, dude.
That's probably something I should have mentioned sooner. But I don't think she listens to the podcast, so I think we'll be all right.
What?
Yeah,
get a new fiancée.
I know. But yeah, we did. She said yes, bizarrely. She has been winding me up about it for some time, because we have been together about 4.5 years now. So yeah, so it has been a while, but it was just waiting for the right moment, and we both love Cornwall, both love being on holiday there, so it seemed right to do it there. So yes, kind of just trying to fend off ideas of, this would be nice. She's got a Pinterest page going, of ideas, which, as long as I can have some nice beer, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. So we've both decided that we want to get married in Cornwall as well. So it'll be a nice trip out, nice location as well.
Exactly. You could be sponsored by one of the breweries down in Cornwall.
Yeah,
That's what
this is it. I mean, the guys at Verdant, they do sell theirs by the key keg, which is about.
Really?
I think we asked about £250, which I think the size that we're looking for is about 35 pints. So, considering the strength of some of their beers, 35 pints would be a tough challenge, to be fair. But as long as I can have one of them, I'll be happy. Very happy.
That's so cool. That's so cool. You're not allowed to carry it down the aisle. You know that, don't you?
Maybe can't marry the beer instead.
Yes. So, and on top of that, obviously the engagement was most important, but on top of that, you also got a shiny new 4K TV and joined the 4KDR, as we're calling it, generation.
Yeah, and Xbox One X was purchased as well, much to Anna's, Anna's disgruntlement. She bought. The agreement we had was that however much I spent on her engagement ring, she'd spend on me back. So she bought the telly, which was roughly the same amount. And then I was like, well, we've got the telly, but we kind of need something to go with it, don't we? I had the S, which could do HDR and the 4K, but then it's like, I can sell that, and I can get an X. Yeah. So I did. So the X is sitting under the new TV, albeit had a couple of woes with it to start with the 4K playback with the Blu-rays, the UHDs, but I've swapped it. I haven't yet tried them, but I'm hoping that is rectified. But everything looks good in 4K. It looks really, really good, which we'll come on to later on in the podcast inevitably. But yeah, you don't think it'll make that much of a difference, but it really does. Even on the size TV I've got, which I believe, remember something like, is 43 inch. So it's not a massive TV, but even still, it's all crisp and shiny and runs perfectly. There's no sort of frame rate issues, there's no running issues, there's no slowdown. It just does it, and it just gets on with it, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's quite nice to have that little extra horsepower, isn't it? Just to kind of not only graphics, but like I say, in some cases frame rate as well. And it just it's so lovely. So you've just before we were podding, you were saying you got Forza Motorsport 7 kind of sitting in that hard drive, downloading, patching, getting 4K-ness from the cloud, and that's just like that. I think I said to Manny, when Manny fired up, because he had an X, and I said, right, play Forza and go to I think it was the Suzuka track, the Japanese track, the Suzuka, I'm sure it was Suzuka. Go to Suzuka in the rain, and you can set this as a race, so you can go Suzuka, rain, nighttime, or even the daytime, it doesn't matter. But the graphics on that, when you're going around the final bend, and you can just see the Ferris wheel kind of catching in the puddles, it's just jaw-dropping. It really is. It just is lovely. It's such a lovely sight to behold.
Like we were discussing in the WhatsApp group, it comes at a price of a 63 gigabyte download, which thankfully we get good internet, which is fantastic. But even with speeds of around sort of 60 meg, which we get, which I think is pretty good, to be fair.
It's really good. It's really good.
Now I'm just hastily turning my controller back on. What is it now? It's at 16.4 gigabytes out of 63.75, and I started that probably about 20 minutes before we started. So yeah, I don't think I'll be playing that tonight.
So we'll keep you updated. We'll keep you updated as we go along in the podcast.
We'll call in on Forza every now and again.
Yeah, we'll do Forza Watch. So that's just so cool, superb. So what have you been playing? So you said you've been playing some nice shiny stuff.
Yeah,
what have you been playing?
I've been playing Far Cry 5 because that's what the bundle was that I opted for. The bundles that they've got at the minute were Far Cry 5. They had the Sea of Thieves bundle, and I think there was one with just an extra controller, which I don't really need an extra controller because I don't really co-op. With me going for Games Pass, which you get a 3 months trial in the box anyway, I thought I'd get Sea of Thieves through there. I went for Far Cry 5, so that's the main thing I've been playing, which is brilliant. You and Stuart have been talking about it the last couple of podcasts you've been on, but it's a really, really good game, and it looks fantastic. It's great to see that it looks so good. It is a Far Cry game. It does what Far Cry games do, but it does it perfectly. It's just a game that you can just dip into every now and again and just, like Stuart does, just go blow up a bear. and what
yes,
as one
does,
and that's the true definition of what a video game should be, that you can just go do something that you can't do in real life. It's, shoot some hillbillies and blow up bears. But again, it just looks stunning. It just looks so good. It plays fantastically. It looks fantastic. And you can just zip around in a plane or in a helicopter or a boat, and it just drive by the scenery, which I have done. I've just driven from one end of the county that I started into the other and just looked at it all, and it's just stunning. It just looks the business, which it's a Ubisoft game, and I know Ubisoft have had a sort of a run-in with sort of the open world games they've released recently, with the Division and the Ghost Recon. Which one was it now? The last one they brought out. Wildlands, that's the one. Yeah, with them being a bit sort of empty and barren, but this has plenty in there. I've just moved on to the second county, and I've probably sunk 10-15 hours into it already. So albeit some of the stuff is a bit rinse and repeaty, but it's good stuff. It's good content, and there's a story behind it which is nice to follow. Albeit it's a bit. A bit psychedelic with the bliss with the drug in the background, but it's a great game. I'll happily play that till it's done, till it's finished, and just keep going. Probably just as a demonstrator, for how good it actually can look on the X. Which until Forza's finished, I won't have anything else to compare it against, really. So
no. But the thing I love about Far Cry is like it kind of you start and it instantly introduces you to some puzzles, that there's a puzzle element in the game. And then as you start going through that county, it then starts kind of ramping up, it then starts kind of going, you kind of start off in a low kind of wanted level almost. And as you kind of get further and further, then it's like, he's here, get him, we've got to get him. And that's when it all just goes crazy. And that's when it really does go crazy. And I think I just love that aspect of the game. It's just, it really does kind of, it's a bit of lull you into a full sense of security, but once you actually start, it shows that you're making a difference in that area, which is really cool.
And then out of nowhere, you'll just suddenly get planes coming after you, and that's the thing. Like you say, it just ramps up. It's like, oh, she sent planes after you, and it's like, oh, brilliant! Like there's not enough, things to get you. Just like you'll just walk through the bush or the forest, and you'll get attacked by a wolverine or a cougar or a puma, then you've got planes to contest with as well, So it's, but it's really good. It's really good. And like you say, there are. Sort of puzzling parts of it as well, with the secrets to find. I think you were talking about the It reference with the tunnel fare. So there's going to be plenty of Easter eggs in there beyond that somewhere. There's bound to be. So it's good. It keeps you hooked, keeps you engaged. So and it was educational for me, because I didn't realise how small wolverines actually were in real life.
Right.
In my ignorance, I thought wolverines were a lot bigger. Because when I was getting chased and someone said, "Oh, watch out for the wolverine," I was looking for something, like a cougar or size like that. But no, it was just biting my ankles. I was like, they're not.
It's small, but it packs
like a honey badger, like a honey badger.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, I only found out what a honey badger was the other day. I always thought it was just a weapon in like the Call of Duty, but I found out what a honey badger was. I think it was a podcast I was listening to, and I was like, this is an actual thing. So obviously you kind of whip out your phone and instantly Google it and go, whoa, that's an ugly looking badger, and it's like, so it was there. That was Far Cry 5 is just educational as well as fun. There's a documentary, there's a 4-part documentary on Netflix at the moment, and the 4-part documentary on Netflix is kind of almost like a prequel to Far Cry 5, and it's a true story about a county in the US where it kind of happened, where the Hope Spring kind of thing happened, where a church, where this cult almost took over this entire town, and that's really worth a watch. If you're playing Far Cry, you watch this, it's just like, oh my god, it's such a mind blown. It's really interesting. I think it's called like Our County or something like that, but it's on Netflix at the moment.
So it's really not actually entirely fictional then. Which is
no, it's that's what I mean. It's like Far Cry 5 could happen, and it's just it's scary.
I mean, it is America, so I think anything could happen over there, couldn't it? Really, in the Trump era, I think it's
yes.
I don't think it's unreasonable or beyond the stretches of imagination. I think that this could actually happen, So
yes. Absolutely, and it's very bizarre. So apart from Far Cry 5, what else have you been playing?
I finally jumped into Firewatch as well, which I know has been a much discussed title over the past history of the podcast, which I couldn't pass up because it was £4 on Xbox Live. So I thought, for £4 I had to jump in, albeit it's not had a 4K bump. But even still, on the X, it's nice and shiny. And the graphics that it has, I think it is bound to look nice on any TV that you play on. It's just the sort of the cartoon style, graphics and the sort of the more hand drawn backdrops and backgrounds. It looks really, really nice, and I think I said this in the WhatsApp group that we've got with the guys that. When I first loaded it up, and don't want to go into too many spoilers, albeit I know that the game's been out for a while, but the game gives you some choices when you're starting, albeit just some text choices, so they're not something that you can really play, but it gives you the background to the game and says, it just gives you one or two options, and that's some hard hitting stuff. That got me right in the feels. It made me start to question that if this was my life, if this was me, what would I do? How would I react? So, it's something that games don't get right when it's a playable section of a game that that they make you think about your choices and you make you think about your options. But for something that's just literally making you read some text and say you've got to choose this now before you even start playing the game, it's it got me. It really did get me. And the actual game itself, it's not really a thinker in terms of it's not very psychological, but it does sort of make you question things as you're playing. The relationship that you have with Dee as you're playing. Just the sort of the banter and the way that they riff off one another. The secrets that that the forest has got to hold. It is a really nice little game. I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and he'd seen me playing it. He said, "Do you recommend it?" I said, "For £4, you have to play it. You can't not play it, albeit it lasts probably maybe 5-6 hours at the most. Those 5-6 hours are great. It's a great little game, and it stopped me playing Far Cry 5 until I finished it. That was the only thing that I was playing until I completed it, which I have done now. I must admit the ending is a bit detached for me. It kind of just stops, out of nowhere, which I'd like to see a little bit of the sort of the consequence of what you've done. Maybe the options that you've chosen for the dialogue partway through the game. How did that impact you? What did Dee do afterwards? What did you do afterwards? Because there's a big question mark about what you do when the game's finished. Because again, without going into too many spoilers, you've kind of gone to be a Firewatch warden, whatever they call them, just to get away from your real life problems in effect. So, do you go back to them? Do you not? Do you go back to your duties as as Firewatch? There's a lot of sort of unanswered questions. Which whether or not there's another one coming out, I don't know. But it'd be really good if there was, because it'd be good to get those loose ends tied off. Because I thought when it actually ended, there was going to be something more. And I stupidly didn't hold in for the end credits either, because I've read up online now that, again, not going to venture into too many spoilers, but the end credits show you some things that you discover as part of the game. So I've watched the credits on YouTube, but I wish I'd hung in there myself.
Yeah, it's such a, as we've said on the pod, it's such a fantastic game, and you're absolutely right. It's one of the games that I would wholeheartedly recommend. It's one of the ones I'm trying to get Nicola to play at the moment, because she's got into a game I'll talk about in a mo, but she wants to kind of get into that narrative kind of driven kind of game, and I just said, to start off with, Firewatch is just a must, because like I say, it does hit you in the feels, and the first encounter that you come across in the forest is just, it's amazing. It's like suddenly I was hooked at that point. I think when I just kind of, from that point on, I was like, this game is something special, and something special, which I've said before, I've played a couple of times, and I'm ready to play it again on the Switch as well when it comes out. because I really want to like take this for a ride on the Switch. I think it would just be great fun, just on there. I'm kind of similar to you. I kind of, when you said that you were playing it, I thought, I'll just quickly check to see if it's in the Xbox enhanced section, because I thought if it's in there, I might go and play for it again. When you were saying, because I just love that game, but it wasn't, so I was like, damn it, I think if that did get a 4K HDR bump, like the Vanishing of Ethan Carter that I played, that game looks stunning in HDR and 4K, and Firewatch with the Olimos visuals, the guy, the artist behind those visuals, it would lend itself so well to 4K.
Yeah, it's really sort of evidence that games can be pieces of art, isn't it? Because like you say, is it Firewatch where they originally, if you did the pictures or the screenshots you're taking of the game, you could get them printed out and they'd send them to you? Am I right in saying that? Yeah.
Yes. That's the one that Manny got. So when you have a camera, you find a camera in one of the boxes in the forest, and you have 20 pictures to take. And on the PC version, when it first came out, you could take your 20 pictures, and then you would then just send it. You just say, it was probably pop up, I think, just say, do you want these developed? And you said yes. You'd pay some money, and they actually sent it. And they sent them over to Manny, and it's just like, it's so cool. And it's just, but every scene of that could be a piece of art. Could be. I think on my PlayStation 4, I've still got the Firewatch dynamic theme. We've got a piece of Firewatch art in the spare bedroom. In the house. It is just like it's gorgeous. It's
it could quite,
gorgeous.
Like you say, it could easily be a sort of a feature sort of image in a spare room or like even a games room, if you could get it enlarged, because it really is really is a beautiful game, and it's like I said, I had to recommend it at £4 because it's it's a game that I missed first time round, and I'm in a way I'm glad I did, because I got it cheaper. Not sound like I'm tight or anything, but it's made me get it and play it. But it'd be a perfect game for the Switch, and it's the perfect outlet for the Switch, and any indie or arcade game is, with it being portable and being able to play it on the move. I think that's in a way part of the reason why the Switch exists as much as anything, for the first party stuff. I think that's a reason alone to own. Just to hoover up these indie games that you might have missed when they first came out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've said time and time again that it's kind of one of the things where whenever I see a new indie game on like Xbox or PlayStation 4, the first thing I do is I check Switch, to see if it's over there, to see if it's available on the Switch, because I think I'd rather play it kind of on the move, on the go, and it is that kind of default thing that I do now. I'm just like, right, that looks a great title, and just fire up the eShop and have a look over there.
Yeah, and it there's more coming to the Switch, and it's great to see Nintendo doing so much in terms of supporting other games out there. I think this wasn't due for discussion, but I think today that it was announced that the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy is coming out 2 weeks ahead of schedule as well. Which they've actually announced that it's coming out sooner than expected, so that'll be out on the Switch 2 weeks weeks sooner as well. So again, that's not an indie game, granted, but it's good to see the Switch supporting other avenues, because that's I think it's been on the sort of the Game Boy Advance SP or the Game Boy Advance before, but it'll be the first time that Crash has been on sort of a main Nintendo console anyway.
And is it the first time it's been on an Xbox as well? Has there been?
I think there was sort of a one-off. Was it Twin Sanity? Was that one of them? Was that on the 360? I think.
Right.
But I don't think it's one of the more popular games. I think it's one of them that's kind of sort of a more modern classics. It's harder to get hold of. So I don't think many copies were sold or indeed produced. So I'm sure there's been because I know the Wrath of Cortex was on the original Xbox. I know that much.
Right.
But okay. I don't know about that. I'm sure there was. I think there was one on 360. I think it was that one, but I might have got the title wrong.
Right. It's just when you think of Crash, you just instantly think of PlayStation.
Yeah, you just think Naughty Dog and PlayStation instantly, don't you? So.
No, you're right. The Wrath of Cortex and the Crash of Titans were both on the Xbox 360. There you go. Quick fact check. And then Crash Mind Over Mutant was on Nintendo DS.
Okay. Google. Trusty Google.
Thank you, Google. Thank you, Google. So speaking of indies on the Switch, your final game that you've been playing while you've been away
was Max Curse of Brotherhood, which is something that I missed when it first came out. I don't need to worry about a shameless plug because you've already done it for me, but this one I've actually written a review for Nichi. This was sent to us to review, so they've just released it recently, but they were waiting for codes to come through for sort of the PR side of things, the guys who develop it. So we got a code through, and I picked it up and played it, which again, I was going in blind and new because I've never played it before, which I'm glad I didn't, because I think that whilst it's good that these games are coming to the Switch, I think it's kind of, there's not much reason for some people to come to them as well, because if they've played them twice, three times on other consoles, there's always that risk that is it going to sell that well when it comes to the Switch. But for me, not playing it before, it gave me a chance to jump in. So yeah, I've been enjoying it, to be fair. Nice little 2D platformer. I think it came out the sort of time that the Limbo sort of kickstarted the 2D sort of the avenue of things. So it's, I don't think I'm sort of in fear of any sort of spoilers for this one, because I think it's been out for, is it about 5 years now? I think it's been out. I think it came out in 2013.
I think so. I think it was like one of the very first games that were given away with Games of Gold for the Xbox One. I think it was like one of the first Games of Gold for Xbox One, and so I think it must be, a good 5 years ago. It is
an older one, but even though it's a bit older, it looks great on the Switch. I've been playing it in handheld mode, which is pretty much the only sort of mode that I play my Switch in, if I'm being honest. But it still looks good on there. It's still nice and shiny. It runs nice and smoothly as well. There's no sort of issues with that. You can tell it's a bit of an older game in terms of sort of, it's just kind of relies on a few sort of steady mechanics, and there's a few sort of little niggles with it in terms of the detection of the the platforming, the jumping, and sort of detection of the ledge jumping, that sort of thing. But it's a nice little game. I think somebody must have been on some sort of drug when they created it or thought of it though. It's very, very bizarre. The story behind it being that you as Max put a curse on your younger brother Felix because he's making a mess and you're fed up with his little brother and you wish he'd go away. He goes away, he gets sucked into another dimension, and you get sucked in with him, and then you have to sort of defeat all these crazy sort of one-eyed monsters and all sorts to get him back. You meet a blind old woman part of the way through, who makes your permanent marker magic. It sounds a bit like sort of Jamie and the Magic Torch sort of thing, doesn't it? Really, it's a bit bizarre, really. But yeah, like I say, I think somebody was on something, maybe some sort of strong sort of flu or cold medication at the time when they thought of it. But yeah, it's good. It's a nice little game. It'll pass the time. In terms of if you've got sort of travel commitments or and sort of a gap between games. It's a great little game. It's, like I say, it's interesting, keeps you going. Like I say, it's not overly taxing in terms of the puzzles that you need to complete, because it's just the puzzles revolve around the fact that your marker can only sort of lift certain points of terrain in terms of making sort of pedestals. That's the sort of the central focus of the puzzles. But again, it's a nice little game. It keeps you going, keeps ticking over, and I'm glad I haven't played it, because I think I would have been a worse experience if I had have already played it. It's like I say, it's probably one of those games that, with it being quite so old, and if it was, as we've said, one of the first offerings with Games of Gold, you've probably, you might have played it quite a few times already. But I've enjoyed it. It's a nice little indie game, and it looks great. For its age, it still looks pretty good. By today's standards, anyway.
So the drawing with the magic marker is that touchscreen?
So you control.
It is, right. In handheld mode, it's touchscreen.
I don't know. Apologies, I don't know what what the control is for. If you play it in docked mode, I don't know whether that will be controlled by the motion control, but certainly in the handheld, you obviously control Max with a thumbstick, but then you kind of mess about with a marker with your finger on the touchscreen, which again can go a little bit weird. It sometimes just has a mind of its own and goes a bit funky, but for the most part it works. Which again is part of the benefit of the Switch. It offers everything that it would do if you were playing in docked mode. You can play it as in any way you want. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. It's a nice little game, and I'm enjoying it. I'm still playing it, but it's something that I dip into when I'm just sat on the sofa watching TV, or while we're kind of binge watching Orange Is the New Black as well at the moment on Netflix. So that's something that I sometimes play in the background whilst that's on as well. So yeah, it keeps me going, keeps me busy.
Yeah, that's so cool. That sounds so cool. No, it's good. Like I say, it's good when a title like that kind of gets a little bit of a revise on a new platform, and it's good to kind of give it another another go, to give it kind of another lease of life, and that's like
that's it.
cool.
There's bound to be some people that haven't played it like me, so it's good that it does, like you say, get a little bit of a revival on a new platform, and hopefully, the guys will be able to release on the Switch from day one now, with the indie support that Nintendo are giving out. So yeah, it's promising times all round.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, it's quite interesting. One of the games I've been playing this week is very much kind of in that ilk, because one of the games I've been playing this week is Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. So this was a Wii U game that I never got around to playing, because probably at that time I just packed my Wii U away.
Sent it to the graveyard.
Exactly, it was just in the cupboard, and I couldn't be bothered to charge up that ginormous tablet. So it was a game that I never played. I never played Tropical Freeze, so I got that the other day. I got a physical copy of that, because it was a game that both Nicola and I think would like. I think so we've got 2 Switches, so having that digital one would mean I'd have to buy it twice. So I've got a physical copy, and I'm playing it at the moment, and I'm really enjoying it. It's such a fantastic game. It's a puzzle platformer. The great thing about the Switch version, is it's quite a hard game. So when you start it up, you can play as Donkey Kong, and you kind of go, I think you've only got like 3 lives, so you've got 3 hearts on each level, and then you kind of get balloons as you're going along, and they give you like extra lives when you die. And then that's the great thing about Donkey Kong, is you do unlock Dixie Kong and Diddy Kong and Cranky, to do other things. Like I think Diddy Kong has a jetpack, and Cranky Kong can bounce on his walking stick. So there's things like that. But with this latest version for the Switch, you can actually play as Funky Kong. And now Funky Kong it's almost like a little kind of training wheels almost, because with Funky Kong you get 6 hearts per level, you have a bit of a double jump, and also Funky Kong can go over spikes as well. So it just turned the game into. There was a couple of levels I thought, if I was playing this as Donkey Kong, I'd be throwing my Switch across the train. At this point I would just play, I don't like you anymore, and just throwing it across the train. But it's such a great game. It's just I went up and back. I was at a conference this week in London at the O2, and so I went up and back a couple of times this week, and it just melts a travel. I was on the train, and before I knew it I was at London Bridge. Then I even kind of got it out on the tube as well, so I got my Switch out on the tube, because the great thing about the Switch is you can just turn it off, turn it straight back on again. You're not booting anything up, and just kind of continue playing some levels, and it's really good. The great thing about it, the great thing I love, which I got to the other day, was there's minecart levels. So obviously every Donkey Kong game has to have a minecart level, and it was just really cool. And that was really hard. You go for like a sawmill and stuff like that, and that kind of, but it looks fantastic. I haven't played it in docked mode yet. I've only been playing it in handheld. But it's absolutely superb. It's just really good. I'm really enjoying the mechanics, the feel, the platforming feels very precise. It kind of feels almost like a nicer version of maybe something like Cuphead or something like that. It just seems a friendlier version, and I just feel that kind of playing as Funky Kong, I'm just going further into this game, and just like further and further into the game, and I'm just like, I'm really enjoying it. I'll be interested. We're up to London again on Saturday, and I'll be interested to see what kind of Nicola makes of it, and whether she goes for Funky Kong, the easy mode, or whether she goes for Donkey Kong. I'm sure she'll go for the harder mode, just to kind of prove that she's a better gamer than me.
So you might have reputation
yeah, exactly. She'll just blow that way, and I would just say, so it's really good. So I'm just really enjoying it. Like I say, it looks fantastic, it plays fantastic, and the levels are just really good. It's just like the whole Donkey Kong Island's been taken over by this kind of Viking kind of in the opening scene, and it just kind of turns the entire tropical island into kind of a snowscape, hence the title Tropical Freeze. And then you just go through level, and I just really enjoy it. I'm just sitting there listening to a podcast. I started listening to the music, but it gets very kind of repetitive. It's not like the really good, occasionally I'm picking up Mario plus Rabbids, and I'm loving the Grant Kirkhope soundtrack to that, and I'll happily just listen to that because it's just really nice. It reminds me of he's the guy who did Viva Pinata and Banjo for Rare and stuff, so it reminds me of that, and so it's really nice just to kind of, I see my head just kind of like bobbing away on the train,
some funny looks.
but with Exactly, yeah, I always get that. And then, but with Tropical Freeze, I'm kind of listening to something else. But it's a great game. It really is just it's well worth a rent from Boomerang or something like that. It's a very good, good game.
I must admit, I was hoping that that was one of the next games that Boomerang sent me out, because I'm the same. I didn't play it on the Wii U. Albeit my ownership of the Wii U was probably very short-lived as well, because once the novelty had worn off, it was kind of like, yeah, there's not a lot coming out for this, is there really? But it's good that Nintendo have kind of recognised that, and they're bringing the sort of the best of the Wii U to the Switch. Albeit this year there's probably going to be a lot of sort of remasters or re-releases from Nintendo, but when the games are as good as they are, albeit you can, a lot of the naysayers will say, oh, it's just another Donkey Kong game, or, just relying on the same IPs and same characters, which, yeah, they are, but Nintendo somehow manages to bring new life into them. Look what they did with Odyssey, and Zelda, they're two sort of staple characters of the Nintendo sort of catalogue, but they managed to release two games that, were console sellers. They weren't anything short of that, and I think, did we go for Zelda, or Mario was the game of the year for last year? One of the two? Well, they were both definitely in my sort of top three anyway.
Yeah, I think it was. I think Zelda kind of really kind of like pitched, kind of got in front of Mario. I think it was more kind of. I think the unanimous decision, but it was more kind of Zelda than Mario. But yeah, but it was so hard. It's like picking between kind of two different chocolate ice creams. It's really
which is your favourite child?
One with cookie bits. Yeah, exactly. And it was just so yeah. I mean, the other one that's coming out that's in the same ilk as this is Captain Toad. So Captain Toad's Adventure. I'm looking forward to playing that, because that's, again, I never played it on the Wii U. So that's another one. I think that comes out June, July. I think
that's
maybe
not
June
far
or
away
July.
now.
That's one I'll definitely. No, then that's definitely something I'll rent on Boomerang, and just kind of I've got it in my queue just to kind of play that for a bit and just kind of, enjoy that. So that was Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. This last couple of weeks, because we didn't pod last week, and it's probably due to this game. But the game that's really kind of gripped our household is Cities Skylines. So Cities Skylines. So this is at the moment, it is on Game Pass. So I've joined Game Pass a couple of months ago, and Cities Skylines was on there. And so Nicola was looking for a new game, and I said, try this. I said, you might like this. You like SimCity, you like Theme Hospital. Give this a try, see what you think. And I was just watching her and helping her kind of set up the first starting of this city, and I was like, I want to play this. It's Xbox enhanced now. It's only kind of about 4 gig. So I quickly downloaded it on the other Xbox One X, and I started playing it as well. So Nicola's playing it on hers, I'm playing it on mine, and we just start building the city. So basically, the premise of City Skylines is very similar to SimCity, where you build your city. So you I started laying out some roads, and then we started with some electric, and so we've got some electricity. I'm using wind turbines. Got some electricity, got some water, and then you just start building an industry or industrial area. Then you start building homes, and you say, right, this is a I'm going to put homes here, I'm going to put houses here. This is a residential area, and then you get to choose all the different things, and then you get to put taxes up if you need to make more money, and the great thing about it, the thing that I absolutely love, is that it's got lots of milestones. So it's like, if you get to a population of 1,500 people, you get this. If you're then the next one, you get 3,000, you get this, and it just is that constant carrot on a stick that's basic. But the game mechanic itself is just amazing. So you build your city, and then suddenly you haven't got enough water, enough electricity, so you then put some more pylons in. You have to do all of that, and you're really you've got to make sure your roads are going in and out of your city, and that people can move around, and you put a metro line down, and it just is incredible. And it was just, so we were just like, Nicola, it was so funny, like Nicola was like kind of messaging me on the way home going, right, we need a really quick dinner tonight, because we just need to eat dinner, get dinner out of the way, and then just play. I want to play Cities. And it was a real kind of switch off, from the hard day at work. It doesn't sound like it, because it is a little bit kind of, you do get a little bit stressed by it, but it's a good stress, and it does switch your brain off, and you stop thinking about work and stuff, and it's just so good. So you basically draw out your area, you draw out the roads. I had a very kind of grid system system. I didn't have any roundabouts on in my city, in Wangchester City, which is kind of I call my Wang because I've got Wangchester, Massachusetts, is the farm that I have in Stardew Valley. So I continued this theme. Thanks, Matt. So I kind of continued this theme, and it was just so cool. So I built a football stadium, went in there. So we got a football stadium. I put a theme park, and it was all going incredibly well, and my town was just thriving. And then what it does is that you start off at a little island, or I chose a map that had kind of almost a Manhattan-ish looking island, and I was putting parks in there, and people were happy. People were genuinely happy. I had, it was really cool. I had enough prisons. I had enough police stations. I put a prison there. Yeah, I know. I put one prison there because, Wangchester people are, they're not the nicest. So I had a couple of police stations, fire brigades, and all that, and it was all just going well. And it said, right, you can now expand to other areas of the map. So I was like, great, I'll do the other side of the motorway. I'll start doing that. Got quite rambunctious in how I was just laying down my map and going. I had so much money. I was like, yeah, more people, more residents. I was going for the next goal. Turn the camera around to see across into the distance, the sun setting on Wangchester City, and suddenly there was just skulls and crossbones, and people were dying. They were sick because what I'd done is I'd overpopulated this other side of the motorway, and I didn't have enough hospitals or cemeteries or all this. So people were dying, but then they were dying in their apartments, and then they were kind of basically just rotting in there. And it was a real horror show.
Did you create the Black Plague version 2? Is that what you'd done?
I really had, it's quite funny because Nicola always laughs at me because I played Fable 3, and, at the end of Fable 3, you kind of go back to the thing, and and in her one, everything was like roses, and everyone loved her, and in mine, everyone was dead. There was just no one around, and I was doing this as well, so I just turned it off, and so the next night, Nicola was like, I'm going to play that, and it was May the 4th, so I got kind of stuck in a Star Wars black hole on YouTube and stuff like that, as you do. I was just started watching things but I couldn't go back to City Skylines because I knew how bad my city was. But luckily what I did was I did save a couple of times, so I basically rolled it back to a previous save because at one point I was just throwing cemeteries and hospitals and all of this, and it just wasn't saving it. They were just... And then my population was just decreasing. So where before I was getting every day or every month or whatever, it was like plus 24, plus 50, plus 100. It started going minus 100, minus 150. Like people would die in a big way. So I rolled it back to a save, and I've now got back to a comfortable level that I'm happy, and I'm now back over the other side of that motorway, but I'm now treading cautiously. I just keep making sure, keep checking my stats. The key thing for this game is you need to keep checking your stats. You need to keep kind of making sure because what it does, it gives you kind of a green to red bar. And then what I wasn't doing was checking my hospitals because they were overpopulated. I didn't have enough staff. It was pretty much
they were off the scale at the bottom end.
I was like, I created the NHS in Wangchester City. We were overpopulated, oversubscribed. So, but now I fixed it. I fixed it, and it's just such. And now I have more plans. And actually, what I want to do now I've learned some lessons, and it's all about lessons learned. Is I kind of want to go back and start again, start a new area, start a brand new map and just learn from those mistakes that I've created, and I still would keep to my grid system. Nicola started introducing roundabouts into hers, but I'm not that crazy. I do like my grid system. It's quite nice, it's kind of works.
Straight line. I like straight lines.
It works so well. Exactly. But it was just, it's so cool. It's such a great game. And like I say, it's free, quote unquote free, on Game Pass at the moment. And it's such a great game to jump into. And it's really good. That, and also the other game I've been playing this week, Sea of Thieves, both of those two are well worth the Game Pass purchase, alone, just those two games. Because I think it was Saturday, could have been Saturday night, or it was over the long weekend that we had in the UK. James and I kind of jumped in and we took a sloop out. On the seas of Thieves, and we did I think we did about 2.5 hour session. So we just said, let's jump in. We did some Order of Souls missions, and we did one where it was one mission, but it was split into 7 parts, and we had to go and kill all of these captains, and it was so much fun. But It started off, we did a couple, we checked those back in, and then we went off and did this one that was in 7 parts. And the more captains and more skulls we were collecting, and we found some chests on the way, the more that we were loading our sloop up with goodies, the more stressed you become. The more kind of, not stressed, but anxious. Either the anxiety kicks in because you're like, right, we've got to go onto this island, but I'm just going to check to make sure there's no boats, there's no galleons, there's no sloops. Yeah, exactly. And we did. It was really cool, actually, because we found we came across, we were pulling into a port, and we were just cashing in something, and there was another sloop in the port. So we kind of treaded cautiously. We watched what these guys were doing, and we were in-game chat, and we were just like, hello, and then this guy was just like, are you guys friendly? And we were like, yeah, we're friendly, we're just dropping this stuff off. And he jumped on the ship, and and he was asking kind of how we were and all that sort of stuff, and it was really cool. And the ship that or the sloop that James had, he had he's got a rare sail, so it's the Rare logo as a sail, and you can only get that if you're a member of Rare, if you're actually kind of a member of Rare. So this guy was like, what's your sail? What's that emblem on your sail? And James is like, it's
do
the
you not
Rare
know who
logo,
I am?
the game you're playing. yeah. And then this guy was like blown away that because James worked for Rare, and it was really cool, and it was just really nice to come across, and it was really just interesting. Oh, it's a really good game, we're really enjoying it. It was a really nice moment, and it was just lovely just to kind of come across a pirate that wasn't just trying to sink you, it wasn't trying to blow your ship apart, and then at one point it got a bit worrying because he was on our ship, and I kept checking the hull just in case he was being nice, but while he was being nice, he was robbing us. So I kept checking the hull. Yeah, exactly. So he's smiling to our faces but robbing us blind. And then his friend kind of took the sloop out on the water, their sloop, and it kind of looped back around a rock, and I thought they were going to ram us. I really did. I kind of got a little bit worried, but they were nice. They were really cool. So and it was really funny because 2.5 hours just blew away. It was just, before we do it, it was 11:30, and it was fantastic. And James taught me, he schooled me in the way of approaching an island, because the Chesson approach is you get near to an island, you drop the anchor, and you almost handbrake it into a stop. But the way that James is far more elegant than I am, because he is just, it was just, so what we're doing, as we got close to our destination, we halved the sail. So this is a great tip. We kind of took the sail to half. So as it comes up and it says you're approaching, and it gives the name of the isle, put the sail into about half, and then you start slowing down. And then as you get close to that land mass, you just roll the sail up all the way up, and you just basically just coast in to a gorgeous little stop. And if you need to, say for instance, if you did it too prematurely, or you're a little bit kind of eager to do it, you could just basically lower the sail and then bring the sail straight back up again. And it's almost like, I think James kind of liked to kind of feathering the clutch, just moving the sloop just forward. And it was just, once I got the hang of it, at one point I dropped the anchor, and I shouldn't have done, and I still apologise, James. And there was and I'm surprised he just doesn't scream at me.
Just refuses to play with it
but Yeah, I haven't heard from him since, so it's just like, and but once, by the end of the session, I'd really got the hang of it. I'd really got the hang of I let James steer, because he's just a fantastic,
he's a seasoned pro.
He's a fantastic captain. He's a really good captain. He gives you, he gives you those positive energy, and he gives you but he also scolds you, and then you feel bad. So it was just like, so by the end of the session, I got it. I'd got that rhythm kind of going, and we had some really good. And the great thing was James was in the sea, and he was fighting some guys who had gold armor. And as the skeletons, the skellies with gold armor, when they kind of appear on the beach, just run to the water, because as these skellies with gold armor come into the water, they'll start to rust. And you'll notice that their gold armor goes black, they slow down. So James is basically taunting them in the water. I went back to the sloop and blew them away with the cannon. And I got some gorgeous shots. We were like really chuckling because I managed to just like nail these guys, like dead on. And it was just which was quite hard because the boat itself was rocking. So you had like the motion of the boat going, and then you're trying to aim this cannon. But like we managed to kind of get rid of these guys, and then we got the last skull, and then we took it back, and the seven to 8 skulls that we really got some fine booty. I managed to James then had to go. So I just walked up to a tavern, not a tavern, a shop on the island, because I wanted to buy a peg leg.
As you do.
And then I walked in, as you do, because my pirate is a gnarly kind of handsome guy,
authentic.
And he's got a. Yeah, exactly. He's got a hook, an eye patch, and now he's got a peg leg. And as I walked into the shop, so James in my headphones was like, "Bye, see you later, cheers," And then as I walked into the shop, it was James again going, "Hello," like this, and it was really weird because found out that James does a voice in the game as well, and I'm not telling you where or who, but he does a voice in the game. So it was just this mind blown moment where he was saying bye and hello all at the same time. It was very
comprehend it.
Was such. Yes, I was like, "You went, James? Is you still there?" And it was just really cool. So it was such. I love that game so much. I do enjoy just like I want to play more because I feel like I don't have enough kind of cool looking clothes or stuff, and I really want to kind of start kind of collecting all those other stuff. So I'm just like, if you want your Game Pass, we should try and jump online and kind of. I think Stuart as well. I'm trying to get Stuart to kind of jump online as well, and we can get James and he can show us all how to do it, because that's exactly, that's an experience, kind of big captain, big sheep, and then that's it's a really good session. But I just and the wonderful thing that I just cannot get enough of with Sea of Thieves is how gorgeous it looks. It just looks on 4K HDR. It just looks stunning. It just looks, you can't, every time you go into a sunset, it just looks amazing.
And I have something that I have wanted to pick up, with the Game Pass, because like I say, you do get the months free when you get the Xbox One X, and I have signed up for that. So I have wanted to jump on, but it's very much a multiplayer or social game, isn't it? Yes, you can play it on your own, but the draw or the hook is like what you've just been saying there, is the moments that you have when you're playing with one or more people, which will be great if we can get a spark galleon or sloop or whatever, whatever mode of transport we decide on. It'll be good just to have an evening at sea with sheep showing us the way and inevitably shouting at us for you've rolled the sails up the wrong way, or you're not, why can't you shoot a cannon, my floor's not clean enough, what are you doing?
We can't scrub the deck,
you're off overboard.
That was that was the other thing that James showed me as well. Is just like when you have your sails at like full mast, I think it's when your sail is all the way down and angle it into the wind. When it catches the wind, it makes this gorgeous noise. It's like a thump noise, and that you've got the wind, and you really start kind of, and it's just, there's those bits in this game, you can see the thought, you see the love that's in this game, because it's those little bits that really do just kind of, and they brought out some new gear as well. James had a really cool peg leg that had a bottle on the peg leg. It was like, it's probably that beer bottle. That would be your ideal peg leg, Steve. And it was like, so they brought out a Eye of Reach, which is like a sniper rifle, which had a bottle on it as well. They've kind of upgrading the gear, so it's just keeps you coming back because it's just so much fun. And I still haven't taken on a Kraken. I'm scared of the Kraken, and I still haven't taken on a skeleton fort either. So there's some fun, chaos, and craziness to be had there. That sounds like a really good night's gaming session. We should sort that out. I think we need to sort that out.
Sync our calendars, I think, there, don't we? And just dedicate one night to Sea of of Thieves, because I will definitely be starting from afresh, because I won't start until we do get an evening sorted, because I'll just want to know what I'm doing from the get-go, because inevitably, like you say, I'll do something wrong, I'll get James shouting at me, or something will happen, something will go wrong, so I imagine I'll be the one that gets fired out of the cannon and just abandoned. We'll just leave him there, leave him on a desert island. He'll find his way home.
I did that to my nephew. I said to my nephew, Ed, I went, Ed, come here. I said, look at the end of this cannon. And he looked at the end of the cannon. I was like, press Y. And he put himself into a cannon, and he didn't realise that I could then fire him from the cannon. Before he went, why am I in it? And then before he even said the word cannon, I just fired him out. And he was the other side of the island. It was hilarious until we then had to wait for him to come back. So, like, Nicola was like, "Where's Ed?" And I was like, "I've just fired him to the other side of the island." It was just, yes. But the great thing is, if you start being kind of a bad pirate, we can put you in the brig. So we can put you in the brig, as we have done Wee Man when we've been playing time and time again. He's, and that's just, it's so much fun. It's such a good game. And then the last game, just quickly jump just before we get to kind of news and stuff. The last game that I've been playing was obviously May the 4th. It was Star Wars Day last Friday. So I jumped into Star Wars Battlefront. And the reason why I'm bringing it up, like Star Wars Battlefront 2, is that they had an event running on Star Wars Battlefront 2, and it was called A Night on Endor. And this was crazy. So basically, what you do is it's a night on Endor, so it's all dark. You either play, it's basically set just after Return of the Jedi, right? So spoiler alert, the Death Star blows up, but I know, the Emperor's dead.
I'm watching that tomorrow as well.
Oh man, sorry, dude. And then so you're on Endor. You either play as Ewoks or you play as Stormtroopers. And the Stormtroopers is really scary. So basically, you're playing a Stormtrooper. It's at night. You've got a light on the end of your gun, and the Ewoks are hunting you. So it's a PvP. So it's all controlled by other players. So you're there in an area, and you're waiting for a shuttle to come down to pick you up. So you got to wait for the time to kind of run out, and you're there. Just with your gun, your light will run out, and you have to then wait for it to recharge. And the Ewoks will just come out of nowhere and just take you out. But the scariest thing, I had my headphones on, the scariest thing was, you're there was a group of us that were Stormtroopers, and suddenly we heard like the Ewok kind of trumpet. It was like, and we're like, they're close. And I've never been scared by a teddy bear before, ever. And I was just like, it's just genuinely terrifying, because your light's just about to run out. You can't see, so you try to get to a lit area so you got more visibility. And then the guys who were playing as the Ewoks, they just kept doing that. So they were hiding in the trees, above the trees, but they kept tooting their trumpets, and then that would like genuinely kind of make us like just shoot at a bush when it moved and stuff like that. It was so much fun. I preferred playing as the scared Stormtrooper to the Ewok, but the Ewok was also fun, because when I played the next game and I was the Ewok, I was doing exactly what those guys were doing to us. So I was getting to a tree, I could see the Stormtroopers, so I'd blow my little trumpet and then just kind of then go in and try and take them out. And it was just generally, it was just like terrifying, it was like but it was such a great idea and such a great level.
It's a bit like cat and mouse, isn't it? We're just taunting people, like you said, just sitting in a tree waiting for, we'd see Stormtroopers just shooting everywhere, just making them on edge. Yeah, it's a good idea. It sounds like albeit a very simple idea, but it's it's one that works. And on a sort of a different tangent to that, I don't know if you've seen it or played it, but in Call of Duty World War II, have you seen the prop hunt mode that they've introduced on there? So basically, what in a similar sort of ilk to that is basically you are either people who are trying to find the props, or you are a prop trying to hide. And what you'll do is the people who are trying to hide is they'll spawn as one random inanimate object, and they'll have 30 seconds to hide somewhere, and then the other guys have got to just run around and shoot across the level and just try and find the other team. So, for example, you can spawn as it depends on what level it is, but you can spawn as a tractor, a truck, a pallet, a bucket, a coal scuttle, absolutely anything. You can swap what you are, but I think you're limited to 2 swaps, because if you turn into like a truck, it's hard to hide as a truck, really, it's great. It's really some really tense moments, because I find it's better when you're hiding, because if you get a good prop, because I think one of them is London Docks, the levels, and I was hiding as like a postal sack, like hung on a wall, and I was just in the middle of some other ones that were also hidden a wall, and there was another guy that was left, and he was a coal scuttle in a pile of coal, and when it's getting to that sort of 30-40 seconds, and the other guys are running around like crazy trying to fire at every other object that's on there, it is really good. So I think in a similar sort of way, that those sort of more arcadey sort of modes, they can create some good moments, because there's a lad that I play with online, just on Call of Duty, because I don't like playing on my own. I like playing on sort of co-op, or well, not co-op, but playing in a pair. When I play online, and we give it a whirl, and it's great. It's good. It's a good laugh. So if you've got it, or you've still got it, or you've not played it before, just even if you just have a cheeky sort of boomerang went, just to see it or twitch it, just watch it, because it is really good. It's just how somebody thought of that idea. I don't know. I just think, oh yeah, it'd be good to hide as a cart wheel, or a milk bottle or something. Because some of these objects can be really tiny. It's really difficult to find, and then you get to find out who was hiding and where they were and what they were hiding as at the end of it, and you see them and they're like, I'd never have found that. I'd never found. It's like I say, sometimes they are quite obvious, because it's just a case of part of it, I think, is memorising what the level looks like. As much as anything, if you play the mode several times, you know what's where, but more of it's just like, that ain't right. Why would that be there? Why would there be a shovel, in the middle of nowhere, or why would there be a tyre, propped up against a wall there? So, it is sort of similar, albeit a bit of a different mode to the Ewok,
sounds bonkers.
Ewok mode. But yeah, it's just mad. When I found out about it, I'm just going to have to play that just to find out what it's like. Just to see what it's like, and it is as mad as it sounds. It is as mad as that.
That just sounds so cool. That sounds so cool. I know, that just sounds so. You're basically just looking for those oddities on the level. Just looking for that. I love that. That idea is just so cool. Yeah, I might have to re-rent it for Boomerang. I've got because I do 2 games, so I've got one at the moment, and I'm just like, which is God of War, and I'm just like so I've got one spare. I'm waiting for Fractured Butthole to be available for Switch, so I can play that. So yeah, maybe I'll just kind of quickly stick Call of Duty in for a weekend just to kind of play it. But I'm so great to see Star Wars Battlefront continue to be supported, this Ewok mode, which obviously, you should be supported on Star Wars Day, but, so the Ewok mode was absolutely fantastic, and it's good to see that for May, they're going to be supporting it with Han Solo. So obviously Solo comes out on the 25th of May, the movie, the new Star Wars movie, Han Solo, A Star Wars Story, comes out on the 25th of May, so they're going to be supporting Star Wars Battlefront with Han Solo content throughout May, which is going to be really cool. So you get to play as Princess Leia in the Bosch outfit, or Lando Calrissian as a skiff guard, all this sort of stuff. I just love just to kind of jump in every now and then just to play with these models.
True fan service. True fan service, which I think
exactly.
I think given the sort of the launch that it had and the sort of the controversy, I think they had to do something, didn't they, to kind of get people back in, back on board. So, is that kind of all sort of, because I've not really played it too much, but it's all the time that just settled on that whole sort of debacle now with the launch of it, with the sort of the loot crates or loot boxes, whatever it was that was going on.
Yeah, I think it'll be forever kind of tainted with that. I think, and they're going to have a tough job when the third one comes out. But they have got microtransactions back in, but they are purely cosmetic.
Yeah.
So it's all cosmetic. If you want to be, a stormtrooper from Endor, then you can just buy that, So it's all just, there is in-game purchases, there is microtransactions, but none of it is game-changing.
It's not pay to win anymore.
So Exactly. So they're still kind of like that, but I think it's too little, too late, and I just don't think that that's going to kind of bring in people now. Like I say, it's a shame, because the single player is a great single player. It's a really good game, especially if you're a Star Wars fan like me. It's a really good game, and just like jumping into these modes is really cool. Every now and then. So that was kind of my Star Wars. One thing that I did find, I'll put a link in the show notes actually if I can find it again, was I found this when I was in my kind of Star Wars Day kind of YouTube black hole. I found this Star Wars, it was a flash mob in Cologne, a Star Wars flashman. So what happened was this: there was this one guy with a trumpet and a conductor, and the guy starts conducting this guy with a trumpet, and he starts the Star Wars theme tune, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, a full orchestra just appears. And it's incredible. It's like goosebump inducing, to see this. And it's just, so some of them are hidden up in the windows of like the office buildings around, but then people just appear on the streets and suddenly there's a lady with a cello, and it is just amazing. And it's really interesting just to see everyone's, because when you've got this guy just playing the Star Wars theme tune on a trumpet, everyone's just walking past. But then suddenly when this like crescendo of orchestral music and orchestral instruments just start breaking in, it was incredible. I'll find it and I'll stick a link in the show notes because it was really good. So I kind of got myself in that, and then I ended up watching Force Awakens because it was on Netflix and I didn't have to get up.
We know you don't like getting up.
It was like, yeah. So it was really cool. So I ended up kind of watching that, but it was great fun. But I will find, I'll write a note here: Star Wars Flash Mob.
Well, it makes you wonder how do you organise that, and B, who has the time to organise that. Because, like you say, for people to pop out of windows and things like that, that's a lot of organising. You don't just, unless somebody, like you say, has to have just randomly has a cello with an apartment over the square or wherever you want to do it. It has to be very convenient, that, wouldn't it? It must take a lot of time. Some real hardcore Star Wars fans out there.
Yes, and it was so cool. It was just so cool. I'll stick that in the show notes. And it's a must watch. Right, let's jump into the news. But before we start the news, don't forget you can rate, review, and subscribe to this very podcast for free on iTunes and YouTube. So let's start the news section. In this week's news, Nintendo reveal their online plans. An EA earnings call gives us an update on both Battlefield and Anthem. And also, I think Walmart just spoiled E3. I think we should start with that one, actually, Steve. This week, yesterday, I think it was, Walmart, I think it was Newsweek reported it, I think Polygon also reported it, and a chap called Wario64, who always has the hot scoops, reported it. But Walmart in Canada basically just stuck up a whole load of placeholders for potential games. So there's a whole page. I'll put a link to this article on Newsweek that I've got, but there was just a whole load of games placeholders. So they're all the very kind of generic Xbox and PlayStation boxes. But the games that they listed were Just Cause 4, Splinter Cell, Lego DC Villains, Borderlands 3, Rage 2, Gears of War 5, Forza Horizon 5, which is wrong because it should be Forza Horizon 4, and Assassin's Creed, amongst others. They also had Final Fantasy, The Division 2. So it's just like, has Walmart just basically blown away all the big surprises?
In there, isn't there? And I think we were having a brief chat in the WhatsApp group, and before we started, it's a case of that they could just be doing this to sort of prepare for things, but there's quite a few things in there that you wouldn't expect. There's some sort of left field things like Rage 2, and like I'm excited by the idea of the Lego DC Villains. I know that's been sort of suggested in the past, but if that is the case, if that's actually coming out, then that gets me excited. And Borderlands 3 as well. So I love Borderlands.
Yes.
I love that game. Borderlands 2 was brilliant. I still play that again, and I know the first one's on Games Past Orbit. It's dropping off at the end of this month, but
right.
And Splinter Cell as well. That's not something that you'd automatically go for, because you like to your Forza Horizon, your Gears of War, those sort of things would be your obvious choices anyway, wouldn't they? But those sort of titles that are in there give it sort of a bit more, believability. It begins a bit more credit, doesn't it, that this could actually be true. In this day and age with the internet, there's no secrets anymore, is there? There's nothing's ever a secret. When something launches, someone somewhere will always have some information, albeit a supermarket, doing something on the website, or somebody from Game posting a picture of some promotional material, early. It is sort of the blessing and the curse of the internet, really, isn't it? That we can't have surprises anymore, but it's good to I suppose it's good in a way to know that E3 is going to be exciting, but by the same token, I'd just like to be surprised, because, I think we've discussed this before on the podcast, and, where the location will be for the next Forza Horizon, and if we do get that announced at E3, that'll be awesome, because Forza Horizons are great. I prefer those over, the standard Forza titles. So to get some information about that, that'd be fantastic. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many of these, if any of them, or indeed all of them, are actually true. In terms of what information we do get, and even if before E3 because I know sometimes if leaks do come out before E3, sometimes some companies make announcements beforehand, don't they? So it'll be interesting to see if we actually get any official sort of comments or, any information about these things that have been potentially leaked in quotation marks before we actually get to E3.
Yes, because you've got to think, in order for this to appear, these are placeholders that someone is loading into a content management system for Walmart. This isn't just some chap in a Walmart in Canada kind of updating that. This is Walmart Canada updating it. So whether they have a list of upcoming games, they're all loading in it, waiting for E3, so they can, the moment they've all been announced, they can just flip that switch, and all of this is then available. So they can get out with the likes of Amazon and stuff like that. But did someone just not kind of schedule this release of this HTML page or the content or whatever it was? Because I think you hit it the nail right on the head there, which is there's some titles in here that are believable. We haven't, Borderlands. We haven't heard from Borderlands in a while. We knew, not last year before, that Randy Pitchford was making Borderlands 3 and he was trying to get devs to come and make it. So we didn't hear anything last E3. So it's ripe for this E3 to give us a Borderlands 3, and I am super excited for that. I played the Handsome Jack collection on Xbox One, so that was that kind of almost up-resed version of 2 and the prequel, the pre-sequel, which was great. I love, same as you, I love Borderlands. The fact that, I kind of, going into E3, I kind of was hoping that there would be a Borderlands 3. I think that was kind of one of the things if we did a predictions podcast, which we'll probably do before E3, that was one of the ones that I would be looking for. But I'm the same as you. It's like, for me, going up to E3, we'll do the podcast before E3, and then I'll try and stay away from the internet, because we all know I hate spoilers. So I try and stay away from the internet kind of going into the Microsoft conference, because that's when people are like rife with rumours, and I just want to sit back and I just want to enjoy, all of that kind of content. But, we've got there's some serious, if these games are coming out, there is some, Gears of War 5, that could be really interesting, that they were, instead of kind of doing a Halo Gears kind of rope-a-dope, Microsoft are actually going, no, here's the next, because Gears finished on a bit of a cliffhanger, so here's Gears 5, we're ways away on Halo, so we're going to give you Gears 5, we're going to give you that, and just to have that would be fantastic. But we know there's going to be a Forza Horizon, so that's what I mean. It's like Forza Horizon, Just Cause, those kind of games, they're almost like they're a given. But then when you start mixing in Splinter Cell, since Sam Fisher appeared in Ghost Recon Wildlands, people are like, you don't get Michael Ironside in to do voiceover just for 3 lines. He must have been there to do a Splinter Cell. So to see that kind of popping up on here, and they've also got things like The Division 2. We know The Division 2 is coming. Beyond Good and Evil 2, which we just hope is coming, and that, and also, what was the other one as well? The Final Fantasy VII remake
might
as well.
Be coming at some point.
Yeah, exactly. But and that kind of leads nicely onto our other E3 watch article, is that the Square Enix are set to have an E3 press conference. So that leads quite nicely into, well, what if Square Enix are going to have a conference? What are they going to show? What are their big games they're going to show? And surely Final Fantasy VII remake is going to be one of those. It's going to be in that. So could we be getting episode 1 coming out soon? Like this year, by the end of the year? I'd say December 30th, we're probably gonna, it's just... But it's really interesting, and it's really interesting, like I say, we're kind of lead into that second story. So that was kind of Walmart kind of really spoiling, almost spoiling some of that. But the great thing about E3 is the games you don't know about, and that's the interesting thing about this. Apart from there was a Destiny Comet, apart from that, the rest of all of those games are kind of, I could sit here and go, yep, there'll be a Just Cause 4 and there'll be a Rage is a bit kind of left field, but there'll be a Borderlands, and I could update the CMS system with those sort of stuff. But there's no kind of new releases. So whether the publishers are keeping those unannounced IPs to themselves, but saying, okay, get your placeholders ready for this, because I'm sure retail know way in advance, of what games are going to be coming out. So it just all just kind of blends that I'll be interested to see this side, the other side of E3, how many of those are actually, we can check off.
Yeah.
Or pre-order.
Yeah. Well, like you say, I mean, I briefly worked for Game, and you're right in what you're saying, that they do know when games are coming out, because, like you say, as soon as E3's rolled, they're up for pre-order. They're there. They're ready, and they've got the material in the window, and that's the difficulty that they have in terms of keeping things quiet, in terms of keeping it under wraps. But I'm sure there'll be some things that we see that are new. Like you say, there's some big hitters there in terms of recognised franchises already, but I'm confident that we'll have some new stuff coming, because I know. I'm not one of the people that slates Microsoft for its sort of its first party stuff or its new sort of IPs, but I'm sure they'll sort of have a conscious sort of awareness that they'll need or want to bring some new things out, to make use of the technology that they've launched, rather than just rolling the staples out. So I'm sure they'll have some things that they are keeping to themselves, that they are just saying we aren't we're keeping that secret, and the guys, that maybe the retailers won't know about until it happens, but that I'm sure there'll be something that we weren't expecting, like a Steve Jobs or there's one more thing announcement sort of thing, coming that nobody predicted. So yeah, it's an exciting E3, because I'm sure Sony will be wanting to hit back with Microsoft as well, with the X coming out. I'm sure they're again aware that they're slightly behind in terms of the PS4 Pro's not technically as capable as the X, so it'll be interesting to see what they demonstrate and what hand they play, because surely it's too early to be thinking about a new console. Surely it's too early to be thinking about that. But it'll be interesting to see how they play it in terms of what they're going to be bringing out, and their sort of first party sort of offerings are as well. So yes, I'm sure the pre-E3 podcast will be an interesting one in terms of predictions.
Yes, indeed. I do think that, I think you're right, it kind of feels too early for a PlayStation 5, but at the same time, and interestingly, we'll get to a bit later, as we were saying, like EA earnings call. EA said that in their earnings call, they kind of quoted a number of next-gen consoles that are out there, and it kind of, when you kind of did the math, it was almost like that there's 75 million PlayStation 4s and 30 million Xboxes. So do you double down on that and get a good couple of years out of it? I hope so, because I'm sure there's a lot more juice in that PS4. Or do you suddenly go, right, we're going to bring a new console out, but it's going to be backwards compatible and all that malarkey? And I kind of, the tech nerd in me wants new shiny, but the gamer in me just says, actually, let's just enjoy what we've got, and let's make this E3 where Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony are all comfortable with their platforms now. Let's get the most out of those platforms. Let's see that, not at the end of this generation, but let's see this mid-generation, the later part of the generation. Let's see that goodness that we saw on the Xbox 360, that we saw on the PS3. Let's see that now. And that's what I think this E3 is going to be. You never know. Sony could go, do that kind of, just one more thing, sizzle reel. People saying that they're talking, just like Microsoft did, not last year, the year before, when people were talking about Scorpio. they just had that sizzle reel. They showed Pete Hines and some other developers going, we've played with Scorpio, and oh my god, it's amazing. Sony could do the same thing about PlayStation 5, and then that sends... The Nintendo don't care, but that sends Microsoft just in a tailspin, because then they're like, oh, we've got to then compete. So it's going to be a very interesting E3. Lots of people want new content, new IPs. So there's that thirst amongst gamers for new IPs. We're going to get things like Anthem and stuff like that. We're going to see more of those games. But you're right, Microsoft need some more first-party kind of titles, and I'm not sure if Crackdown kind of, what does Crackdown look like now? What they've got away. What does that look like? What does Days Gone look like on the PlayStation 4? All of this sort of stuff. And we're a month away. We're a month away from E3, and I just my hype is already kind of. I often, if I'm on the train or I'm playing Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, I'm often kind of my mind's wandering to what Nintendo could be offering, what Microsoft, what Sony, and also what Square Enix, their E3 Showcase 2018, which is going to be on Monday, June the 11th. So we've got EA on the Saturday, we've got Microsoft on the Sunday, Bethesda on the very, very early Monday morning, and then later on Monday, we've got Square Enix will have their showcase, and then Ubisoft haven't put their stake in the ground yet, and neither have Sony. And I think somewhere in that mix, we've also got a Nintendo Treehouse as well. So there's we'll put up a full schedule of when all of these are available. Once we get that information, we'll do that. We normally kind of do that on the E3 page for the Lost Spark website. So we're kind of sick that if you want to know when all of these are going to be happening, but. Square Enix, they announced that they announced to save the date. It's going to be E3 Showcase. They've got a video presentation that's going to be happening. It's going to be happening at 10 a.m. Pacific. So they're going to be placing that, and they must be showing, Final Fantasy. We've also got Life is Strange, the second Life is Strange as well. So there's that sort of stuff. So there could be some really good stuff being showcased at the Square Enix.
You'd think they have to show something about Final Fantasy VII remake, don't they? Can you imagine if they didn't? Can you imagine the reaction if they didn't show anything? Just like, oh yeah, it's all about, like you say, Life is Strange and some other things that they're working on, or dabbling in. Yeah. Can you imagine if they just like left Final Fantasy VII and didn't say anything? There'd be outrage. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see more of Final Fantasy VII anyway. Because it's. I'm kind of excited about it, but I'm not, because Final Fantasy VII was one of the sort of my games of my childhood in terms of it was one of the first games that I played when I was younger, when the PlayStation 1 came out. In all honesty, I'd like to see it a bit more true to its roots in terms of what they're doing in terms of remaking it. But by the same token, I'm more than happy to accept it in its form in terms of whatever they decide to do to it. I'll play it, but I'd prefer it if it was just a case of that they remade it from the ground up. They did it again, but did it how it was then. The turn-based combat, the same sort of thing there, rather than the sort of the free-flowing combat aspect of it that they are, going for. But I'm happy to accept it in whatever form it comes, because I just want to see that world, that story, brought up to speed in terms of whatever the consoles can churn it out to look like. I'm more than happy to accept it in its episodic and a new updated format. But yeah, like I said, they have to show it, because we've not had much to go off of, have we really, recently? So, like you say, if they drop the bomb to say, oh yeah, by the end of the year you can play the first part of it, boom, that's something to get excited by, isn't it?
So it was two E3. It will, including if you count this one, it was two E3. It wasn't last E3. It was the previous E3 when they announced this, wasn't it? When they announced Final Fantasy VII, and we never heard anything last year. And also Square Enix also have the new Tomb Raider game. They've got Kingdom Hearts 3. So there's, this could be quite a packed, quite a decent showcase. But they have to. I agree with you. They have to show something of Final Fantasy VII. I know there's been lots of job postings and rumblings, around that kind of studio, but they've got to have something. You've got to at least have a bit of a playable demo, surely, and introduce the guy with the gun in his hands, and just like kind of, and show him what he looks like now in this new render set and stuff like that. I'm very excited to play it, because when it came out originally on the PlayStation, I never got onto the third disc, so I'm quite interested to, and depending on how long they take with this remake, who knows when the third part will be coming anyway. It could be one. Yeah, I still might not finish this game, but yeah. So it's going to be an interesting one. Like I say, well, I'm sure we'll get more hyped for E3 kind of as it gets closer. If my hype levels could get any higher, but yeah, no, I can't wait. It's going to be good fun. And then the next piece of news is with me, is that, or is with both of us, is that like Nintendo Switch have announced their online plans and pricing and service deal. So this happened on Tuesday morning. I think there was a tweet from Nintendo of America and from Nintendo in general, just basically saying, here's basically an information dump on the Nintendo online services. So we've got individual memberships, and you've also got family memberships as well. So you've got the individual memberships, which range from, and this is all in US dollars, it's like $3.99 US for 1 month. 3 months is $7.99 US dollars, and for $20 you're getting 12 months. Or you can plop for a family membership, which is $35, and that gives you up to, I think it's 7 accounts. So you can have 7 people kind of sharing that, which is interesting. I think one of the WhatsApp groups we were chatting in, it was almost like, well, we could all band together in this. We could basically just pay £5 for a year, and then we could do that. So I'm not quite sure how that works. They were a little bit kind of thin on the details of that one. But what it gets you, so that's kind of the pricing plans. But the features, I thought were decent for Nintendo. You always caveat it.
It's good. It's good for Nintendo.
But you get it's good for Nintendo. They're now just getting online play, where Microsoft had that on Xbox 360. But what we have is online play, so you can battle it out. This is from Nintendo's website. You can battle it out or cooperate with players around the world in compatible titles like Splatoon, ARMS, Mario Kart, Deluxe 8, Mario Tennis, Sushi Striker. So what they're basically saying is, at the moment, the games that are online for free are all going to go behind this paywall. So your online games, the one game they never mentioned in there was Smash Brothers. But we know there's a game coming out. There's an invitational happening at E3 where they're going to be showing Smash Brothers. They got loads of people playing it for the first time in a tournament. So you can reckon that when this comes out, which is launching in September 2018, that is when Smash Brothers is coming out. It must be kind of, whether Smash Brothers will come out just before or Smash Brothers will come out with the online play. You can kind of imagine that these are going to come they're going to come hand in hand. So you have online play. You also have the most important thing for me is the data cloud backup. So this basically allows you to save your Nintendo saves into the cloud, because right now, if I dropped my Switch, or if I, was on the train or did whatever, I would lose all of my saves. I'd lose my Zelda, my Mario Kart, all of that, Odyssey would all just go. They would all just disappear. And I'd have to play those fine games all over again. So this way, it's almost like a Switch insurance, that if I ever did lose, drop, or smash, or whatever, my Nintendo Switch, or break it in rage when I'm playing Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, that my saves would be safe in the cloud. That they would be safe in the cloud. So I really quite like that. They're still going online. It's still going to be through the app. So the app on the iOS, Android, iPad, whatever, they're still going through that. It's not going through the Switch, so you still get that. And I think one of the kind of sweeteners in there, similar to the other consoles, is that you get to play 20 NES games. So at launch, they're launching with 20 NES games that will add added online play for the first time. So what do you think, Steve? What do you think of this? Do you think it's does this get your money?
I want to say yes. In terms of the games that I play on in the Switch anyway, I don't think the multiplayer things are a massive issue to me. The biggest one would be Smash Brothers. obviously when it comes out, but it's great that obviously they're offering the service in terms of what they are. In terms, like you say, it's more like an insurance. If you pay the £20, you're more insuring that if something happens to the Switch, or for whatever reason your memory card does become corrupted, then you have got everything there still. And it's nice that they have got obviously the games in there. I mean, you can't expect a lot from it in terms of free stuff, in terms of the money that you're paying. In terms of it's going to be probably going to be £20 a year, and if it's $20, it's probably going to be £20. £20 for the year. So, for that £20, what you're getting is probably worth it on its own in terms of the value that they're offering. Because with the likes of gold and things, you're paying £40-50 a month. Getting a couple of free games, you are paying double what you're paying for this. So, it is, in terms of what they're doing, it's great. But in terms of, for me, what I'd use it for, I'd happily, if it was something that there was games out there that I wanted to play online, then I'd probably go for, probably just a month, just to see me over that game, because it's great that you have that option. It's good that they are giving the option to say 1, 3 or 12. Maybe it'd be nice if there was a 6-month option in there, to kind of bridge the gap, but I'm guessing it's more their way of saying, that's the way of them getting the money, that, they're going from the 3 to the 12. So I can kind of see why they've done it, and it's good that they are giving that option. But I think for the time being anyway, I could go without it unless there was, there's some, some of the NES games, unless there was something in there that I really, really wanted to play, which again, if you just pay for 1 or 3 months, you probably get your value out of it there, rather than committing to the full 12 months. So it's good that they're giving you the choice. It'd be nice if they ditched the app, and, I'm not entirely sure what sort of features they'll go through via the app, but when they were trying to do the whole chat system through the app on your phone as well, it's, like you say, it is Nintendo, and they're like doing their own thing. But when something works, like online chat does through a console, like it does with PlayStation and Xbox, you'd like to think that they could just go down the conventional route as well. But what I mean, does it really say what they're offering there in terms of special? I mean, it says special features, doesn't it? So you get Splatnet 2 in Splatoon. You can look at sort of battle features and an online lounge. You can send online play invitations to players on your Nintendo Switch system's friend list. The app also lets you quickly send invites via social networks and messaging service. When you're invited to a game, you'll get notified straight away. You can use again, you can still use the voice chat through it, and it's like, why do you want to have a phone to voice chat through when you've got a console that could do it perfectly? Why would you want to do that? So it'd be nice if they did a party system, or something similar to what the Xbox and the PlayStation do, in terms of, right, we've taken the feedback, we've learned a lesson that you can still do these other things via the app, which doing the Splatoon net things like that would be great, because like the Xbox app does, you can see things, you can download things remotely, you can send messages remotely, that sort of thing, which is great. But it'd be good if they said, right, we've recognised it, this is what we've done, and these are the reasons why it'd be worth paying for, because we've got a party system, we've got a chat system, those sort of things. So I think maybe they could do a little bit more in terms of that support. But in terms of the pricing, if you are sort of a more hardcore Switch user, in terms of you play online, you do a lot of online gaming in terms of Splatoon, and you're going to look at Smash Bros, then £20 a year, it's not a lot of money in terms of if you're getting those games as well. So it is nice to see that it is a lower price point, and they're not just going for the same level that Microsoft and Sony do, that they can just go, it's going to be £40 a year, so I think if they did do that, people would want a bit more from it, because in terms of, like I say, that they don't have the volume of games. I mean, I don't know if Nintendo could even do that in terms of the games that they could give out for free, in terms of the backwards compatibility side of things. So for what it is, if you're a hardcore Switch user, and I think the £20 a year is probably more than worthwhile. In terms of, like you say, in terms of more the insurance that you've got your saves there more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, they said that the service is going to launch with 20 NES games. They've listed 10, which are Soccer, Mario Brothers, Ice Climber, Super Mario Brothers 3, Tennis, Super Mario Brothers, Dr. Mario, Donkey Kong, Balloon Fight, and Legend of Zelda. The other 10, they're going to be revealed. They're going to reveal them later, so I don't know what they're holding back. And you can play them. You can play them online. You can play them kind of controller share. You can play them on the Switch. You could also play them. You can just detach the Joy-Cons and kind of play 2-player and that sort of stuff. So it's kind of giving you that. But for me, and I think kind of, you know, a lot of the guys, like James and Matt and Maddie, kind of were sharing kind of our thoughts when we were chatting about this, which was very much kind of NES games are fantastic. They're great. SNES games are great. But I kind of almost want to get to N64. I want to get to N64. I want to see some N60. You know, if this was 20 games, here's 5 SNES, 5 NES, you know, 5 N64, some you know, some GBA games in there. You know, I would love that. I'd love that mix and match to be there, and I would pay more for that mix and match. You know, there's some games that I never played that I'd love to play again, or just take on the road with me and be able to play them. So, you know, it kind of has the start of something interesting, and I definitely will kind of jump in just so I get my Switch insurance for my cloud saves. But, you know, it's definitely something that has me interested. I'm not sure out of all those titles if I'm going to probably play Legends of Zelda, and maybe Super Mario Bros. 3, but, you know, the rest maybe I'll just kind of just dabble with. But I do want to be blown away, and I'm hoping that those other 10 could be more kind of like N64 games or GameCube games. But I just think for £20 a year, you're not going to get that. You know, you're not going to get that. And yeah, it irks me that Nintendo couldn't just copy Microsoft and Sony. You know, they couldn't just, you know, if you look at the mobile phone market, Android and Apple are constantly sharing, borrowing, stealing from each other, and then one-upping the other person. You know, Google just had a keynote a couple of days ago, and, you know, they brought out some really cool features. So they brought out a fox that when you're doing Google Maps, the fox, there's a little kind of animated fox that will kind of almost in AR. So if you're walking, you want to go somewhere in New York or in London, this little animated fox will kind of show you which way you need to go, and it just looks really cool. You know, it sounds stupid, but that's what I mean. They're kind of borrowing from their competitor and then evolving. So they're just evolving that tech. And why Nintendo couldn't go, okay, let's look at Nintendo, let's look at Microsoft, let's look at PlayStation, let's do something, you know, let's do something better than that, rather than this half-assed online play with you know, and Matt, Manny and James and I, when we were playing Splatoon, you know, we tried the app, the version 1 of the app, and we ended up just going to Discord instead because it was terrible, you know, and it was so. But I'm sure it's going to get better. I'm sure, you know, this is, like I say, a first step. But with the amount of consoles that Nintendo was selling, they kind of need to start taking this stuff a little bit serious, you know, and then think outside of maybe their kind of local audience, their Japanese audience, to what Western gamers want. And we do want friends, chat, lobbies. You know, it's how easy is it to jump into a game of Sea of Thieves? You know, you just go, I get everyone into a party, 2 button clicks, and you're all in playing a game together. You know, and it doesn't sound like 2 buttons to me on Nintendo, but I'm glad they've got online play. I'm glad they're doing it. I'm happy with this, and then I kind of just want to see more. I'm sure we're going to hear more about it at E3.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, if it's a service that evolves and there's more to come, you know, in terms of the games that they announce, then, you know, they might have something to draw people in, you know, in terms of what they're offering, in terms of giving it a bit more valuable. Like you say, it's, you know, in terms of if they could sort of build on the model that already exists and offer their own little spin on it, then, you know, that'd give people a bit more incentive and a bit more reason to jump on and you know, turn it into rather than say, oh yeah, I might buy it, to, yeah, I need it, you know, I really need it because it's going to add value to what the Switch already gives me, sort of thing.
Yes. And if only they would add some kind of virtual console to this as well as part of that offering.
Nice little segue there. You know, nice little drop into it. Yeah, I know James. James will be cursing when he hears it. But yeah, the other piece of news that we've got this week in terms of obviously their Nintendo's online plans is that they're not planning on doing a virtual console, or it's not in their current plans for what they want to do, which is disappointing, really, because, like you say, what we've just touched on there, in terms of the other games that they could offer, you know, N64 games, Wii games, you know, Game Boy games, you know, they've got such a broad and vast catalogue to offer to us, as you know, and to the Switch. You know, this isn't just to us. You know, that the Switch is the perfect place for these sort of things as well. And I think it was out recently that is it an Android tablet in China or Japan was running. They had an emulator for Nintendo 64 games somewhere, and that runs on the similar sort of hardware to what the Switch is running on. You know, the technology's there. It's clearly possible. You know, why can't they do that? Because if they suddenly said, you know what, it's £30 a month, and we'll bring you an N64 game or a Game Boy game, or you know, other things to offer to the subscription model, then you've got us. You know, you've got me. You know, if I could just play Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Yellow, you know, Mario Sunshine, Mario 64, you know, any of those games on my Switch, I'm there. You've got my money. You know, I'd pay anything. You know, I'd pay £50 a month to do, you know, £50 a year, sorry, to do that. You know, they've got so much to offer. They've got so many games there that they can offer, and like I say, in a way that the Switch offers a great, you know, sort of back catalogue of other games from other sort of consoles and developers. Just look at their own games that they've got there, you know. And again, it's, you know, Nintendo are relying on games that they've had previously in their own existing franchises, but Microsoft are doing it, Sony are doing it, albeit in a different way. But why can't they get on board with it?
Hi guys, it's Anthony. Sorry for the abrupt break in the conversation that we was having regarding the Virtual Console, but unfortunately Steve had to quickly step away last night whilst we were recording, but I didn't want to let this good conversation go to waste, so that's about it for this episode. A bit of a strange ending, but that's about it for this episode. Big thank you for listening. Thank you very much, Steve, for the chat and talking about kind of E3, etc. Don't forget, you can keep up with us at gamersoflostspark.com. You can also find us on Facebook. On Twitter, we're at LostSparkPod. You can find us on YouTube and also the Gamers of Lost Spark PS4 community and Xbox One Club. You can catch up with Mr. Steve Carter at SteveCarter91 on Xbox Live, Cartero on the PlayStation Network, and Steve_Carter91 on Twitter. And don't forget, you got Pointer Brew and Nishi, we'll never know what it is, Gamer. I put both of the links in the show notes at gamersoflostspark.com. For me, I'm Chessman on Xbox Live and Nintendo Switch, PS-Chessman on the PlayStation Network, and Chessman UK on Twitter. Don't forget, if you have any feedback, please send it to our email address. That's feedback@gamersoflostspark.com. Also, if you're feeling generous, please leave us a review on iTunes. Well, that's about it. We'll be back next week for a full episode, but thank you very much. See you later. Bye.